If you look up this year, you'll see aviation pushing the absolute limits of physics. We're talking fifth-generation fighters tearing through the sky with thrust and agility that seem almost impossible. But to actually understand where the industry is heading in 2025, you have to look down at the tarmac. Global air shows have become massive, sprawling cities of metal, drawing thousands of investors, military leaders, and engineers. The problem is separating the reality from the PR. When a manufacturer parks a sleek new jet on the runway, it's incredibly hard to tell if you're looking at a combat-ready machine or just an empty shell built to generate headlines. To make sense of it, we can divide the landscape into two distinct philosophies. First is the Innovators Hub, best represented by the Dubai Air Show. This is where the industry goes to flex its commercial tech, ultra-luxury aviation, and unproven experimental airframes. On the other side is the Tactical Theater, spearheaded by the Royal International Air Tattoo, or IAT. Here, the focus completely flips. It's all about military heritage, coalition defense integration, and proving that an aircraft can actually survive in a combat zone today. So we're going to put these two shows head-to-head. Think of this as an objective report card for the aerospace sector, weighing commercial promises against military realities. Because deciding which aircraft actually wins in 2025 depends entirely on what you value, the disruptive potential of tomorrow or the functional lethality of today. Nowhere is this clash more obvious than on the flight line in Dubai. It is one of the only places on Earth where you can watch American and Russian fifth-generation fighters perform in the exact same airspace. The American F-35A is the global benchmark for a mass-produced multi-role stealth platform. Those zebra trails forming over the wings show the immense aerodynamic stress it handles while remaining a fully operational, combat-ready system. Then you have the Russian Su-57. Instead of relying purely on stealth, it utilizes three-dimensional thrust vectoring. By angling its engine nozzles independently, the pilot can force the heavy jet into physics-defying pivots at near stall speeds. This image captures a major public relations flex from the Russian aerospace industry, the Su-57 opening its central weapons bays in flight, exposing the bright red missiles to prove it can integrate active payloads. But there's a serious catch. The aircraft flying here is just an export prototype. It lacks the full stealth coatings and combat capabilities of an actual frontline fighter, and it's plagued by incredibly slow production rates. Contrast that with the F-35, which rolls off the assembly line by the hundreds. Those jaw-dropping aerial stunts will always dominate social media feeds. But when you examine the actual balance of global air power, stealth and manufacturing volume are what actually secure the skies. The operational focus of RIAT strips away the prototype hype to examine integrated military history and capability. As you can see with this Lancaster bomber flying above the show's massive branding, the emphasis is on the practical application of air power. Modern combat is built on multi-domain intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR. This overhead shot of an E-3 Sentry AWACS shows the massive rotating radar dome that turns the aircraft into a flying command center. Look closely at the wing-mounted pods of this U-2S Dragon Lady. These structures house specialized signals intelligence equipment, allowing a 70-year-old airframe to gather critical data at the edge of the atmosphere. This year also marks 50 years of the Apache. On this AH-64E model, the mast-mounted radar allows the crew to track targets while staying completely hidden behind terrain, providing a lethal edge in low-level operations. The most significant tactical advantages often lie in the slow, methodical, and often unseen data link integration happening between these older, highly upgraded airframes. Returning to Dubai, we see the sheer scale of the Emirates A380, a reminder of the massive footprint of the commercial sector. Here, the pressure to innovate and reduce emissions is driving every major design choice. This detail shot shows the unique engineering on Boeing's new 777X. To ensure its massive 72-meter wingspan can fit into standard airport gates, Boeing developed this folded wingtip mechanism, a solution typically reserved for carrier-based jets. China's Comac C919 is also present, positioned as an alternative to the Boeing and Airbus duopoly. However, until it secures certification from Western regulators, its ability to disrupt the global transport network remains limited. The Joby S4 represents a more disruptive path. This electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, or eVTOL, uses 6 tilting electric rotors to function as a zero-emission air taxi. What makes the S4 viable is its unified flight control system, derived from the F-35 program. A single joystick movement by the pilot is automatically translated into the precise speed and angle adjustments across all 6 rotors required to transition from a hover into flight. The commercial market is promising vast scale and clean energy. But as an investor, you have to weigh those promises against the harsh reality of delayed production schedules and strict regulatory hurdles. Aerobatic teams serve as the emotional core of these events. This formation, where a Fly Dubai airliner is flanked by aerobatic jets, acts as a highly visible billboard for state pride and commercial integration. Italy's renowned Frecce Tricolori celebrate their 65th season with sweeping 9-ship formations. It takes immense precision to paint the sky with continuous bands of the Italian flag while maintaining such a tight flight pattern. These shows also prioritize historical preservation. This vintage Fiat G91 was completely restored to flight status just to fly alongside modern equipment, bridging decades of engineering history. However, it's important to look at the hardware. The jets flying in these national display teams are almost exclusively subsonic trainers, not the heavily armored frontline fighters used in combat. They are specifically tuned for low-speed energy management, extreme agility, and carrying large smoke oil systems, rather than radar-evading shapes or heavy weapons payloads. A flawless aerobatic routine projects tremendous soft power and tightens diplomatic alliances. Just keep in mind that a beautifully choreographed display of smoke and loops is a different metric than a nation's actual defensive lethality. How do we evaluate this season? The aerospace industry is split into 2 mindsets. Tech investors aiming for margins belong on Path A. The Dubai model maps transportation's future, from air taxis to airliner battles. But skeptics must price in delays and mock-up aircraft. Alternatively, defense analysts take Path B. The Riyadh model demands proven capability, focusing on intelligence, secure comms, and coalition readiness. Reliable military capability depends on the effective communication between legacy bombers, reconnaissance planes, and rescue helicopters within a hostile environment. An agile prototype will always go viral, generating millions of views and massive hype. But functional readiness, manufacturing scale, and sustainable engineering are the metrics that will actually dictate the future of the skies. Choose your metrics carefully and calibrate your investments to match the reality on the ground.